Hello, everyone, and welcome to Gateway Midweek. My name is Jason Crabtree. I'm wearing a costume right now in the spirit of Halloween, and thank you for joining. This week, we're going to be talking about identity and what it looks like to just kind of put on a different identity in front of other people, and we're going to kind of get to the root of that in the gospel and just sort of go through that together. But first, naturally, as I said, in the spirit of Halloween, we're going to talk about our best Halloween costume stories. Nathaniel, the powerful Nathaniel Serrato, what is your best costume story?
Oh man, well, I don't know if I want to say it's the best Halloween costume because it's technically the worst costume I've ever had. I remember I was, I think, freshman year of high school.
Okay.
It was the day of Halloween, and we were going to go trick-or-treating or hang out or something, and I completely forgot that I was supposed to have a costume. So there's literally this like silver fabric that my mom quickly cut up into a cape. And then for some reason, I thought it would be best to just paint my entire face completely red. And that was my costume.
The silver caped red man.
Red man, red face. I have no idea why I did that. I just assumed like, oh shoot, I need a costume. Mom turned this into a cape. I'm going to paint my face red.
Hey.
So I don't know what that was supposed to be, but
Whatever works, man. I mean, you got to do what you got to do. So my parents have this like video on like a record tape. What is it called? When you have to use those cameras. I'm super VHS. Yeah, we recorded like our own videos on VHS, and so I would make films when I was like 6. I used to love making films. And so one time I decided that I wanted to be a ninja, and like I pulled my mask off in the middle of the film and I was like, I'm a Scottish ninja, like in a really stupid accent. So I was a ninja for Halloween that year.
A Scottish ninja.
A Scottish ninja, nonetheless. My parents love that story. But it was, the other stupid thing is like every year it was kind of a give or take in Canada if there's going to be snow or not for Halloween. And so some years I would go as the Pillsbury Doughboy underneath my actual costume because I had to wear a snowsuit because there'd be snow and frost. So as I'm trick-or-treating, of course, it's just kind of look like a chubby, like little kid waddling around because I can't like move properly. But that's how it was in Canada, dude. It was awesome.
I wish it snowed here during Halloween.
I
Or
miss
Christmas.
it.
At least Christmas. But no, we live in the Central Valley.
I've been dreaming of a white Halloween. So, in the spirit of Halloween, of course, we've got a lot of masks going on, a lot of identity, and a lot of kind of just putting up walls. And so, when we talk about identity and wearing a mask as people, I think of the word persona. I think I heard Carl Jung or someone like that say the persona is sort of the person that you want other people to see, the caricature that you're trying to portray that you want other people to think of you as. So we're just going to kind of break down what it is to put on this persona and put on a different character, and why do we do that, you know? Why do you think we do that, Nathaniel?
I think it's just that just natural human tendency where we only want to show people the best parts of who we are. So regardless of what we have going on in life, we want people to see like, hey, we're doing fine. We're making, plenty of money. We're healthy. We're happy, and nothing else is going on. And I just feel like that's just the tendency of just, I guess, kind of human competition in a sense where we want to show each other like, hey, I'm doing great. Are you doing great? Yeah, I'm doing great. And then it just gets to the point where it's just like, yeah, we're not really going to talk about why we're actually not doing great. So we just start putting on this facade or this persona just to try and prove some unnecessary point to people.
Sure, totally. And it's so tough because, like you say, there's almost the competition aspect of like, well, I'm doing great. How's everyone else doing? And to me, that's just not a reality. Is that we as Christians we recognize that life is full of struggles and life is full of trials, and that to sort of act like they're not happening is it's not real. So it is that persona. So we're going to kind of break down some different topics that we for sure know people put on these masks. So why don't we get into social media? What do you think social media, how does that affect us? How does that affect our identity? Give us your take on that.
Man, I think that's probably the worst thing overall in our lives right now. And to be fair, I'm on social media. Well, I mean, mainly to look at pictures of like puppies and stuff.
Naturally.
But I mean, even when I was younger, like the thing with social media is that that's the best place to tell about your best self, because there's no way to accidentally show the worst parts of you. Well, I guess people can accidentally do that, but that's a whole nother conversation. But so you can literally post whatever you want. You could go to the beach, take one good picture of you in the beach and say like, everything's perfect, I'm at the beach, and you don't have to share anything else if you don't want to. So it's kind of just this, another just natural thing where people tend to like, if I look solely at my Instagram feed and everybody I'm following, and if I just go based off their pictures on how they're doing and how their life is going, I would just assume, oh yeah, everybody's perfect, everybody's making plenty of money, vacationing all the time, and nothing ever goes wrong in their lives.
Yeah, we like to kind of post the highlights, post the high points of our lives, and again, it's just not a realistic thing. I've had Facebook since I was 12. Good grief, that's a long time. I've had Facebook since I was 12, but I even remember just as a teenager, kind of when I would post things, I would come back to them and try and comment on them, almost to get them more likes, because it pops up in someone else's feed. So why do we use that for validation of our persona? Why do we do that?
I think it's just a part of I guess the simplest answer is I feel like that's just the way the people of this world are just heading towards. And with this kind of celebrity idea, is, you get, people love celebrities, and it's just that need to like have people who you don't even know say like, hey, I love you so much. And for some reason we feel we need that. So that's kind of our way of like, hey, I'm going to post a great picture. Yeah. So if I can get just as many people just to like that, and then if I don't get enough likes, here, let me post something else to see if that'll get even more likes. And even then, we always get so excited to, or at least when I was younger, when we were younger, I assume you and your friends were probably this way too. But I know my friends would constantly come up to me and be like, dude, I'm at 70 likes at this photo now. And then the next week, another friend will be like, yeah, but dude, I just hit 85 likes. Yeah. Oh my gosh, dude, 85 people liked that one photo of me. Yeah. And it's just that addicting thing where it's just like, ooh, okay, let me see how many more likes I can get.
You kind of get like a little buzz out of seeing likes. I used to call myself Michael Jordan as a play on Michael Jordan every time I had like a picture that got a whole bunch of likes. It's kind of a strange thing how it just it doesn't promote a good image either, because when you post the absolute best parts of your life and then people sort of feed into that a little bit, they give you those likes, and they sort of, and I'm not saying posting on the internet is a bad thing, of course, but when your source of self-worth is coming from how many clicks you get on a picture of you, it's just sort of it's a bizarre thing. And so how do you think, just even moving forward, how do you think that's going to affect people's lives in general?
I think, if this culture never changes, I think it's just honestly going to just be a vicious cycle of once our generation becomes the older generation, in our 60s and 70s, the more kids we have, the more our kids have kids, like the deeper it goes down, the more they're just going to be like intertwined in this, like, I need everybody to randomly like me. Yeah. And I see more of that like happening as culture and technology progresses, because we tend to lose our value in ourselves and start shifting our value towards social media. And because a lot of people are finding this sort of false fulfillment in these likes, they tend to be like, okay, so now I'm going to start shifting my kids to that way. And if my kids start going even deeper, great. And they kind of miss the whole point of like just the emptiness of that value, and how like as soon as that app goes down or that thing fades, like those people aren't going to know what to do. And I know for a while I was easily falling into that.
Oh, yeah.
And honestly, it didn't really happen until, I got married, and I kind of was just like, I don't really care to go on Facebook anymore. And like I said, if I go on, it's to see like a little video of a puppy playing around,
Yep.
or like a funny video.
I always watch those videos of like dogs getting adopted or something,
Yeah.
and it's just it's
Or
so
dogs,
heartwarming.
or let's see, like somebody in the military coming home and seeing their dog and their dog recognizing them.
Oh, it's the
Like
best.
those videos like that, but that's really the only reason now.
See, if you post those kind of videos, that is what we want to see.
Yes.
But
Yes, amen.
just my one last comment on social media is just, isn't it weird how when people do post sort of negative things, or they leave social media, even how because we as a culture collectively have kind of built up the value in social media. It's interesting how when someone does post negative comments, well, that person's weird. Let's just take a step back from them and kind of it's such a weird thing when someone is trying to portray a genuine emotion, or someone leaves social media. Well, what's wrong with that person? I'm not hiring them because they ain't on Facebook. It's weird, but we'll move on from there. So I want to talk now about quarantine and sort of how our identity is being affected, even just being in quarantine. I think something that's interesting that has not been experienced for a very long time is I don't have to get out of my pajamas in the morning first thing anymore. I don't have to do that. I try to, and I do. I don't always succeed, but we're able to work from home for the most part. Some people aren't, of course, but a lot of office jobs, a lot of teachers, a lot of people like that, we're kind of locked in our houses right now in a way. And of course, that's kind of eased over time. But how do you think our identities have been affected even just since quarantine started, because we don't have to go out in public every day, because we don't have to reach out to people every day? How do you think that might have affected our identity?
Yeah, so I definitely think it was worse in the first probably 3 to 4 months. I mean, as time went on, some people started going back to work. Some people started, found a way to fulfill their need for satisfaction another way. So some people, kind of got better with it, found another way to do, but some people are still, kind of stuck in the whole quarantine where they can't leave, they can't go back to work and stuff. So the way I feel like it's affected us as a society and just as individuals is a lot of us are now finding ourselves in these quiet times where we're like really thinking about who we really are and what's actually going on. And because we're not having as many outside distractions, like a lot of people, they're not going out to lunch, so they're sitting at home. And at some point, the phone or video game system will naturally just die, or they'll get bored, and then they start having just zero distractions and are just like, oh man, I actually really got things going on. And it's hitting people hard because of the culture we live in, with video games being at an all-time high and just super amazing, with social media being so just big, and with our phones are faster than any computer that we've had in the past. So without all those distractions being here, I know it's like sticking people in a hole where it's just like, oh shoot, I actually have to focus on me. I've never had to think about that because it's so easy to get distracted.
Oh yeah, it's not comfortable when all the noise sort of stops, and then you just you're left with you and God, and it's just this. I feel like it's sort of a rekindling of who we are, and kind of now that everything's sort of slowed down, it's like our minds can kind of catch up with where we're at in life. It is an interesting thing. Now, do you think that because people are at home, they're not sort of internalizing that, or they're kind of hiding it from other people? Or how do you think that's kind of going to progress as we do start to meet in person more?
I want to say it, kind of what I've seen. I feel like one of three things could happen. One way, it could be somebody starting to internalize what's going on in their lives, and they come to a point where they surrender their lives to Christ, or they decide like, okay, I'm going to get deeper, and they start, reading the Bible because now they have the time to read the Bible, and they, they're growing and they're getting better through that. Some people are just not letting anything out
Yeah.
So they're struggling, and they're just like, you know what, I don't want anybody to
Stuff
to
it
see
down.
this. And then the third thing I believe is, I feel like all of us, even here at the church, every teacher, principal, every parent we talk to kind of is all agreeing like, man, people are struggling. And
Yep.
I feel like the third thing is struggling and understanding that everybody is, and now people are talking about it with each other like, oh, this is what I'm struggling with. And they're actually now, I don't want to say being forced, but in a way kind of being forced to now share like, hey, this is what I'm struggling with.
Yeah.
What are you struggling with? And what can we do to fix this?
Yeah, we're all kind of lost in a jungle right now, and it's not that we're all alone lost in this jungle, but like everyone is lost in the jungle right now, and it's a weird thing we're going through. And so one of my strategies personally has been to be very intentional about reaching out to people and just saying, hey, I'm experiencing this right now. Or I've talked to my wife and I say, hey, I'm going through this. What do you think? What should we do? So in your opinion, Nathaniel, what are some things we can do just to sort of counteract that pulling away from society, that thinking that we're on our own in this jungle of wherever we are right now? What are some things we can do to counter that?
Honestly, for me, it's just call someone.
Yeah.
I know that that's a big thing now with how technology is. People are scared to call. And honestly, even before I came back to work, after I was first let go during COVID, like, man, it used to always stress me out, like, oh, now I have to like start calling people and start calling parents because that's the only way I could contact them. And like after making like the first 100 calls, I'm now like, well, yeah, like here, let me just call somebody.
That's just a person.
And yeah, it's just a person. Like say, hey, how you doing? Do you have time to talk? And I mean, if people don't have time to talk, like shoot a text, leave a voice message, do something to intentionally try and reach out, because we need community so bad as people. And it's hard because, you know, the U.S. and like first world countries like this, we tend to be very individualistic. Like I can do it on my own.
Yeah.
All I need is me to be successful. And you know, in times like this, in this pandemic, this is where we start realizing like, you know, I actually can't do it on my own.
Yeah.
Like right now my life sucks. So I would say intentionally just calling somebody.
Yeah.
Talking to a family member. I want to say I've called my parents now more than ever. Like I still see them like quite often, but before the pandemic it was just kind of a random, like maybe I would see them once every 1 or 2 weeks, but now it's like I'll call my dad like probably every other day just to tell him about, you know, how my lawn's growing and just all this stuff. And I know for me, like that's been like such a helpful thing, because now I'm having like human contact. I'm catching up with people, and it's yeah. So I would just recommend that.
It's very important to just let that guard go down and just be genuine with someone for a bit. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to move on a little bit more here. So once we do start getting more in public and we're kind of back, I know a hard thing for me in my life has been small talk. I really want to connect with someone. I really want to talk deeply with someone. And something I've had to learn how to do over the years is just have small talk, because that's how some people communicate, you know? But my question is, when we're around other people, how do you strategize being a consistent person? And what I mean by that is sometimes in different social situations, I sort of find myself acting a certain way or putting on like a persona, like I was saying. I kind of evolve into this different person. And when I come out of that situation, I go, I don't feel like I've been a consistent person today. So that's kind of what I mean when I think of that. At least that's the way I process it. So how has that been for you? How do you go about being a consistent person, or do you just wear a mask?
Yeah. So this is actually something I've been thinking about a lot more, not just since the pandemic, but the past year, ever since I started with Youth for Christ. I was getting very annoyed of whenever I talked to my students, I would just be like, hey, what's up? How are you doing? Good?
Good.
And then, you know, that was starting to frustrate me. But then all of a sudden, you know, whenever I'm, you know, sometimes I would come here to the church or, you know, go with my family, and I would say like, hey, brother, like, how you doing? Good? And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like if I had a nickel for every time somebody lied, I would just go around just asking everybody, hey, how you doing? Good? And for me, it was just frustrating me so much where I started pulling my students, and whenever I started mentoring them, one of the first things I started working with them with is like, hey, so if I ever ask you how you're doing, here's a couple ways to actually start start engaging in a conversation. So I tell them, like, it's fine to say you're doing good, but give a reason why you're doing good. Say, hey, I'm doing good because I woke up on the right side of the bed. I had my favorite cereal this morning, and man, I'm with my friends. It's a good day. And then if you're not having a good day, be honest, just saying, honestly, my day's all right. I kind of had a rough start. I didn't get my favorite cereal in the morning. And because I was pouring into my students that way, I had to work on myself too, because sometimes I would catch myself just being, oh, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm doing good.
So
Pretty good. Pretty good.
So now every morning I tend to think like, okay, so how is my day going? And if somebody asks if it's good, I'll just say, hey, it's good because, hey, I have my energy drink. I already got started on work, and yeah, it's pretty good. Things are going well.
Yeah. Yeah, one of my favorite questions for people when I do sort of, because you get that response with teenagers, adults, everyone kind of answers that way. And I guess that's just sort of cultural. But one of my favorite questions is why? Why is it good? Why are you having a good day? Another one of my favorite questions, how are you really doing?
Yeah.
I try to just, of course, some people aren't going to give you let the wall down necessarily, but that's definitely a strategic question, even from me, is just how are you really doing? Because I genuinely want to know in that moment. And so going back to the self now, so that's sort of our social aspect. So when I'm in public, like I was saying, sometimes I put on this persona. And so how have you strategized over the years to just be you, to be comfortable being you in front of other people, to be genuinely you? What does that look like? How has that come about in your life? And just sort of share if you don't mind.
Ooh, excuse me. Don't worry. I don't have the Rona. For me, I don't want to say it comes a little more naturally or something, because I know there's definitely been times in my life where it's really easy to just kind of fake it until you make it. But a lot of my mentors, especially in college, they always stressed this idea of authenticity.
Yeah.
So for me, just whenever I'm out in public, like I said, I always make sure to, I mean, I don't do this consciously a lot because it'd be tough to where, like, every time I step outside, like, okay, let me think about the real me real quick and then make sure I reflect that. But to me, just it took a lot of practice, and now like I do my best where I kind of think about who am I at home, and how can I make sure that that's being reflected accurately.
That's a big one,
because if I'm all happy-go-lucky outside, like I would hope that I'm happy-go-lucky in my marriage when I'm at my house, and that's why I also have my wife, who she challenges me constantly, and it's something that just builds me up, and it reminds me, like, if I get frustrated at like the remote because the battery's dying, and then I may like blow up, and she's just like, hey, chill, dude, or she'll say something that I think to myself like, yeah, why do I have to get mad? Like, would I have done this in public? And obviously the answer is just like, no, I wouldn't have yelled at a remote in public.
I mean, that brings up an interesting question, because sometimes there will be things that kind of reflect who we really are in certain moments. So who are you in traffic when someone's just cut you off, or who are you when that remote dies? That's an interesting question. But I would say for me, the sort of like you're saying, who am I at home? For me, it's who am I in my head, and am I reflecting that? Well, seriously, because sometimes I catch myself, I'm going, this isn't what I'm really thinking. This isn't what I'm really trying to communicate to this person, but I'll let myself get away with it sometimes, or I'll just kind of, I don't need to share that. But it's not authentically me sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I do this all the time. I'm actually not who I am portraying right now. No, that's not the case. It's just it's hard to consistently be who you are and be who God has created you to be. And it's really a tough thing. So I have an interesting question that I think is a tough one. What does it look like for you, really quickly, and then we'll get into our last little section here. In Genesis, we have Adam and Eve. They've just sinned and they've just eaten from the tree. And so God says, well, Adam and Eve, where are you? And they go, we're not here. Like, I just picture Scooby-Doo hiding behind like a tree that is way too small to conceal his body. It's such an interesting thing to me because sometimes I almost catch myself hiding a part of myself from God, and it's very obvious that he knows exactly where Adam and Eve are. It's obvious that he knows exactly who I am, but I almost conceal pieces of myself. And so what's your strategy to sort of kind of giving up that control of hiding, and what does that look like in your life?
Yeah, so I kind of, how much I love Francis Chan.
Oh, yeah.
And, his just convicting messages. So I actually have a parable that I want to read. So it's a parable of the sower. So just in case you guys want to know, it's Luke 8. I'll go and start verse 4, or verse 5, go from there. It just says, a sower went out to sow his seed, and as he sowed, some fell along the path and were trampled underfoot, and the birds of the air devoured them. And some fell on the rock, and as it grew up, it withered away because it had no moisture. And some fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up with it and choked it. And some fell into good soil and grew and yielded 100-fold. As he said these things, he called out, he who has ears to hear, let him hear. And obviously we've gone over this parable, plenty of times in the church, and we know how those examples represent kind of who we are, like our hearts hardened, like how are we receiving that. And one just amazing thing that I heard is 95% of us will always assume we're the good soil. Sure. So for me, like every time I've heard this, I feel like it's just so natural where I think like, yeah, I'm the good soil. Yeah. And it's just kind of, I came to a point where it's just like, wait, am I the good soil? Yeah. Because I feel like, honestly, at times I'm definitely the rocky soil, or I'm the thorn soil. Like we're naturally sinful. I succumb to sin, and sometimes I do just straight up tell God, like, no, I don't want to do this. It's going to make me uncomfortable. And so it's just understanding to ourselves, first doing that reality check to us, like, don't assume you're the good soil. Don't assume that your heart's super open, because what if God were to just open up your eyes right now and say, hey, sell everything you have. Sell your nice truck, sell your belongings, sell your nice TV that you just bought, sell your PlayStation 4.
Not the PlayStation 4.
Your gaming stuff. Sell everything. Give all of your clothes away except what you have on you right now, and go serve me. Fly to Africa. So if God told you that, would you wholly be willing and available right now to do that? And for me, like, that reality check always, that's what helps me kind of balance, like, am I hiding my identity? Because for me, if I'm at a point where I say I am the good soil, chances are for me, like, I'm probably trying to hide something from God. Like, I didn't just tell you no 5 minutes ago to giving this homeless person some food. Or
there's times of our lives. I actually just went through this parable in my seminary course. There's times in our lives where we're going to be in different soils, and it's up to us to sort of choose. Hey, we're going to try and grow in this good soil, but even in good soil, you've got birds, you've got bugs. Nowadays, you've got pesticides. You've got all kinds of weather conditions that come in and try and chew up the soil. So even still, when you're in that good soil, it's not necessarily that you're going to have an easy time of it. You're going to kind of go through those different phases. So it's definitely exposing when God kind of picks at you a little bit. So I'm going to close with sort of an identity verse of mine. Everyone knows it. It's Psalm 23. I'm sorry, but I love this psalm. It is just a beautiful picture of just sort of our walk with God, and as he takes us through. And this is just sort of, it's a wonderful identity to sort of claim and just say, I am a sheep, and God is my shepherd, And to me, there's nothing wrong with that. So the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You've anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and loving kindness will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. It's just this beautiful picture of David just saying, I am surrendering control. My identity is in God to be my guide, to be my shepherd, for him to lead me through the valley. When enemies are all around us and nipping at us, he's not concerned about that. He's guiding me. So it's just this beautiful picture of identity, for me anyway. And so I think we'll end her there. I think this has been a productive conversation. So thank you for joining us for Gateway Midweek. Once again, my name is Jason Crabtree, and we hope to see you again next week.